Do you ever wonder how pros are able to play so fast and make it look easy at the same time? The truth is, at this point in my career, I practice about an hour a day. And more often than not, that's enough time to get the technique in my repertoire up to speed, sounding effortless, and sounding really clean. You might be wondering, like, okay, but how? Maybe you're practicing 1, 2, or 3 hours a day, and still you're having trouble moving that metronome up, even 5 or 10 clicks. It's like you've hit a wall. In this video, I'm going to go over 3 things that for me were huge game changers when it came to unlocking speed. That said, there are no quick fixes. You're not going to be able to play really, really fast just by watching this video. If you take these ideas, really build them into your routine, give yourself time to learn and make these permanent habits in your playing, they can make a massive difference to your ability to play fast. Secret number 1 is to free the fingers and make it as easy to coordinate them as possible. Fingers that are straight are harder to coordinate. When we spread out our hand and look, okay, all of our fingers are different lengths. But when we curve those fingers, they all kind of come to a level plane here. That's much easier for the brain to coordinate. So we want to avoid having straight fingers. Fingers that have to move through space more than other fingers are also adding an extra layer of complexity for your brain to coordinate. This is why we want to keep the fingers closer to the keys. Additionally, when fingers are further away from the keys, there is a lot higher chance that you may miss one of the open holes. At least there is for me. I have long fingers, which is a great advantage, but the tips of my fingers are kind of small, so it's easy for me to miss the hole if my fingers are not really close to the keys, and then this creates a crack or a mess in the sound. Fingers that are full of tension don't move as quickly. If you relax your hand and you just wiggle your fingers, you'll feel that they move pretty fast. If you tighten up your hand and move your fingers, of course, it's much harder to move those fingers quickly. One of the reasons that we have tension in the hands is because fingers, some of them, especially this right pinky here, tend to take the weight of the flute more than is necessary. If this right thumb is traveling to the left, or this right pinky is really straightening out and feels like it's holding the flute, you're likely taking more weight in this hand than you should be, and so then the fingers lock up and you end up with tension. Secret number 2 is to remove tension. This isn't just in the fingers, but in a lot of different places in the body while we're playing. Really common places that I find tension in my body that impacts technique include locking out my knees, tension across the collarbone, especially as I breathe in, or tension across the collarbone and in through the arms, like even into the armpits, where I'm kind of bracing myself, getting ready for that hard section. This will often cause a mistake. Tension in the neck. I put tension in the front of my neck when I play really softly, and sometimes in the back of my neck at the base of my skull when I'm going into a difficult passage. Tension in the breath itself. Lots of us have a habit of tightening up our trap muscles and slightly lifting our shoulders when we take a breath in. Tension down the arms. If we have tension in our hands, it's very likely that we will have tension in the forearms as well. It's just a security mechanism, I think. Sometimes if we feel like we're really grabbing onto the flute and we're really controlling our fingers, controlling our technique, it will be cleaner. But in fact, this just adds another layer of difficulty for the brain to coordinate. So we want to release the tension in the forearms, tension in the jaw, and then lastly, tension in the breath itself. So breathing in and then holding the breath or taking really shallow breaths, because we're kind of going into that protective mode where we want to try our best to brace ourselves physically against making a mistake. If you have questions, I would encourage you to join our school community where you can ask us more about anything you see here in the video. It's free to join and there's a link in the description. Secret number 3, of course, is going to be air. It's important to take a great breath when we're playing fast technical passages. It's important to take a great breath anyways, all the time, but especially when we're playing fast, because this can really help us cue our nervous system to relax. When we breathe slowly and deeply, when it's possible, of course, this lets our body know you can calm down now. And quite often, this is the opposite of what we feel when we're about to play something that we find really difficult. The next reason that air is really important for fast technique is because this allows us to better coordinate our fingers, because we can understand when are we actually having a finger coordination problem versus an air problem. Sometimes if we're not blowing through the flute enough, a note may speak late or speak in the wrong octave, and if we're not using great air, we can think, oh, maybe that's a fingering issue. A great example of this is the opening phrase in the Taktakashvili Sonata where we play up to the high B. For so long, I practiced the fingerings, but then I realized, of course, I was holding back on the air because I didn't want to make a mistake, and in fact, this is what was creating the mistake. So getting that air to really move through any runs or any difficult passages feels scary, but it's integral to really understanding how we can get the cleanest coordination on our fingers. If you're passionate about learning the flute and you want to truly transform your playing, we would love to see if it might be a fit to work with you one-to-one in our private community. If this seems like something that could really help you get to the level you want to be, I would encourage you to check it out. There's a link below in the description.